Alright, so we're back to the 318, 420, or 420, 318, depending on how you want to order it, comparison series. So today, or in this video, what I want to do is I want to talk about the similarities and the differences in terms of attachments. For both the 300 and the 400 series, the front attachments were different, but the rear attachments were all the same. And I'll give you a couple of examples of those. So we're going to start in the back first. Recently I put the video out with doing the install of the rear PTO for the MCS unit. I also have the 2000 RPM gearbox. Did all of that for the 318. As a kind of a matter of point, this MCS unit actually came off of that 420. Or so I've been told. So what's really important is all of the rear attachments, the 3-point, the MCS unit, all of the rear attachments that you can get from allied vendors all fit the 300 series and the 400 series the same. So fit the 316 own-in, all the open frame John Deere's from the 80s and 90s. So the 316 own-in powered, the 318, the 322, the 330, the 332, the 420, and then the 430. The 400 is just a completely different beast. But the reason that is because the frames are not different at the rear of the machine. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to take a tape measure and we're going to measure across the frame. So in this particular case, for the 318, the rear frame is, I can't get in there because of all the stuff now, but it is approximately 13.5 inches. Let me see if I can get down a little lower. So it is 14 inches, if you can see that, across the frame. So it's 14 inches on the 318. Now let's go see if it's the same for the 420. This is much cleaner. And then if you look at the 420, it is also 14 inches across in the back. So all of the rear attachments fit the two pieces of equipment the same. Also, the Sunstrand 15U pump was the same across the two types of machines. However, the 318 and the 300 series has the hydraulic release mechanism, whereas the 420, 430 just have the neutral for the differential. The differential is practically the same. In fact, I think in my John Deere history books that I went through last winter, if you look at some of the John Deere history videos, I mentioned that John Deere actually had a year-long period where they were they worked with Peerless, which was a division of Tecumseh at the time, to design these transaxles, and in the process had a year-long proprietary period where only they could use them. But anyway, for the most part, aside from the locking differential mechanism, the two differentials are almost identical. The locking mechanism is different. Up for many years, you could actually get the differential gear, the locking pin, etc., from Deere, and you could, if you wanted to modify 318 by splitting the case apart, you could. On the 420, 430, the rear axles are longer compared to the 318. I used to know how much longer they were, but I cannot remember off the top of my head now. So that's why the stance of the 420 normally looks, 420, 430 looks quite a bit wider, is because of the axles, not necessarily because of the frame. The big differences are when it comes up front. The 420 frame, if you look at it, if we measure it, the 420 frame up front is 16 inches. Meanwhile, the 318 frame is 14 inches. And if you look at like a 425, and eventually I will do a frame comparison because I've got a couple extra frames. I have an older 420 frame, and I have an X748 frame, and I have a 425 frame, all sitting in the scrap pile. that I think I might, we can do a frame comparison. It'll probably be in the spring though, once all the snow goes away. But what's really important is because the differences in width of the frame, the front attachments are completely different. Plus, the attachments for the 300 or the 400 series are all shaft driven off of that shaft right in there. Meanwhile, for the 300 series is all belt driven. So your 49 blowers are going to be belt driven, and your 50 blowers, I think it's 50 blowers for the 420, 430s are all going to be shaft driven. Now, what's really important to note is the 430s, their frame was 12 inches longer to accommodate the radiator for the engine and the increased length of the engine from the Onan. That's why the 430s look so much longer. For those of you who have not sat in a 430 seat, it's basically you feel like the hood just goes on forever. They're great machines. Absolutely would love to have another 430 one day. Probably not anytime soon will I buy a 430 unless just the right deal comes along. Mostly because I've got other things that I want to do with my time and money. But mainly own a 455 again, if I can ever find one that I like. So they both had all the hydraulic outlets up front, and as I said in one of the previous videos, you know, the 420, 430 was H3. Meanwhile, the 318 only had two hydraulic spools. A lot of people have gone in and added a third spool to the 318 and also taken the differential out of a 420 or 430 and put it in a 318. So those are the differences there. One important, I guess, kind of side note, personal opinion there. I see a lot of folks, particularly on some of the forums and on Facebook and things like that, I see them find 420, 430 blades, and they always want to modify them to fit a 318. Historically, it's been my experience that you can probably sell the 420, 430 blade for more than you can buy a 318 blade for. Just something to note, I see a lot of guys do it, and it's kind of depressing because there's definitely a shortage of 420, 430 front attachments compared to 318, and for those non-PTO powered attachments, it's just easier to go out and find. I mean, the 300 series attachments are plentiful. A blade that worked on a 140 will work on a 318. In fact, I've actually put that quick hitch back there, which is for a 300 series. It will fit on a 140, which is kind of cool. I put it on a 140 several years ago, right after I first got it. I don't even think I have a picture of it. But so just if you find a wider blade, you know, just something to note. You don't modify it if you have a 420, 430 blade and you want to put on a 300 series, because most likely you'll be money and time ahead if you can find a blade or something, whatever, that you're looking for a 300 series and sell the 420, 430. So that's it for this video. For the attachments, the front attachments were different. The rear attachments were all the same. So thanks for watching. Appreciate all the support. Oh, almost forgot. A couple weeks ago, a young man by the name of Connor Nelson asked for a shout out, so I suppose I'll give him a shout out. He commented on one of my videos, and I think I said this in a previous video. All of my footage is taken. You know, I do it a couple weekends a month, and then I make the videos the rest of the month, mostly because of time and work and everything. So I wanted to give him a shout out. He's 12 years old. Always great to see younger folks interested in all this stuff. I didn't get into all this John Deere stuff until I was in my mid-20s, actually mid to late 20s. And so it was one of those things. I didn't really do it growing up as a kid, but it's kind of blossomed as a hobby now if you look at the shop back there. But wanted to give him a shout out. So thanks for everybody's support and all the comments, and it'll be 2 days till the next video.